Hello, everyone. This is Bridget Quigg coming to you, not live from Seattle. If you're watching this video, we ended up needing to use recording. And I just want to say hi and good morning anyways. And it's nice to be here kind of with all of you. We're getting into the talk called Growing Your Career with Confidence, a title I love that was chosen largely by your peers with the conference together, of the many I suggested. And I really felt the vibe of it. And I really loved it when they selected it. So that's what we'll focus on and our little time here together. And I just want to say a special thank you to Victoria Lewis and Deb for helping to get me here today, and to everyone who's put together this awesome Women in Government conference for Montgomery County. I think it's great that you're taking the time to do it and come together and learn and grow. All right, so in the title of that talk, Growing Your Career with Confidence, one of my favorite parts of that title is the word confidence. And it's an area of great interest to me. And I have a rather artistic approach to it, which is what we will go over today. But I know you have a full day of learning ahead. You have how to have a better LinkedIn profile, how to build a resume that stands out, really expresses who you are, how to behave in interviews, ask questions, answer questions. All of this stuff really takes having a unique form of your own confidence in yourself, which everyone deserves and everyone can have. I really believe that. And so what I want to focus on today with the confidence is an idea that I have on every page of my website, bridgetquigg.com. I like to joke that I'm the only Bridget Quigg on the internet, but and I have the phrase, I believe every person is a creative genius. Okay, so we're taking a little bit of a turn here, but hang with me. So the idea I came up with over the years, and I'll explain more about my background. I believe every person is a creative genius. So when we talk about confidence, one of my beliefs is that every person is truly, profoundly, endlessly, quite incredibly, actually. And when I use the word creative, a lot of people think, oh, you have to be able to paint frescoes in the Sistine Chapel, or you have to be able to throw pots, or, write novels. And really what I think about when I think of creativity that relates so nicely to what you're all doing today is it's really about coming up with stuff. All right. So, in Seattle, classic example, this bridge is closed. How am I going to get to work around this massive body of water? Or I want cereal, but I don't have any milk. Is there something else I could throw in there to make it tasty? We have, so often it's, we have this amount of food, we have this many people, we got to pull something together. Or, where are we going to go on our vacation? And at work, a lot of times it's problem solving. It's fixing things. It's like, oh, guys, the meeting has to be canceled because of this person's sick. Can we meet later? And can we just focus on this aspect of it? You naturally, all day, every day, improvise, fix, solve, fill in, make better all the time. And really what you're doing more than you realize is pulling something from nothing. You're creating all the time. You're very good at it. And in fact, you wouldn't be here today as beautifully dressed, as ready, as awake, smelling nice, whatever wonderful things you have going on, if you didn't have this incredible ability to adapt and to go with the flow. So I'm going to play around with some concepts from improvisational theater, which I'll tell you in a minute I have a background in. And we're going to actually have you do some activities at your table and help you recognize this part of yourself, this creative brilliance. And I'll describe that a little bit more in a second. So there's a bit of background about me, just very briefly. I worked in tech here in Seattle for many years, about 17 years, going downtown, worked mostly at startups, so very small companies, and I was always in marketing, and in particular ended up in the content creation field, which didn't exist when I started, back when the internet was new. As I joke, we used to, ride to our work on horseback to work on the early internet, but over time, obviously became far more complicated and massive. And I would often lead teams of what are now called creatives, so writers and graphic designers. And as I did that work, I was also out and about in Seattle performing a lot. So comedy shows of all kinds. I was in several comedy troupes. So we did sketch comedy, did quite a bit of improv comedy, did a lot of stand-up comedy. I write and play music, and so I would write songs to go into my stand-up sets that were funny. And so a lot of experience creating, making stuff up, so that creative energy, flowing strong. And what I noticed at work is that even outside of, the creative chapter of the team that I was leading, there's a massive need for people to have more confidence in their ideas. That was my observation, because you have these brilliant people you've hired. They're showing up, they're giving it their best, yet the culture is not asking from them the full throttle on this creative energy, which to me seems like not such a great idea, kind of a waste of potential. So because of my experience in improvisational theater theory, so I'm not going to have you improvise in front of each other today, but we're going to play around with part of the reason why people who improvise are able to gather on stage together and in the moment without a plan, without a script, not having rehearsed anything in particular, make stuff up together at the same time in this sort of incredibly unusual flow of human cooperative behavior. And you'd think it's just random, or those people are just kind of more funny or silly, or they like do crazy things. In fact, improvisational theater has a tremendous number of, you could say, rules, guidelines. People who do improv rehearse together, and they do that because they're practicing certain behaviors that allow them to make stuff up together at the same time. So here's the real goal of the talk today. As improvisers do on stage, as you do actually all day in your work, but we're going to try and amp it up. I want you to be able to hear your great ideas and express them, and be a person who helps others do the same. Because this is the confidence you want to have. You want to be unique, you want to be fresh, you want to be expressive, and you also want to be someone other people not only respect that in, but also find themselves elevating around. Okay, that's often the hallmark of great managers and great leaders, is they elevate the people around them and make them feel more confident and positive about themselves. So with that big promise, which I promise we'll get to, just real quickly on creativity. 4 things I believe. Number 1, you are endlessly, profoundly, boundlessly, deeply, there is no end to it, creative, which is to say, I could throw games at you. So I know a lot of games. I teach a lot of improv, and or even work challenges. You would come up with material pretty much without even being able to help yourself. You would fill in gaps and make up reasons, funny reasons why things are happening, whatever the game required, endlessly, unless, I like to say, you'd need a nap or a snack, right? Unless you got tired. But for the most part, you would just rock creating new stuff. You're naturally good at it. You cannot help yourself. And then I also believe you're, what I say, uniquely creative. So each one of you has this boundless depth of creativity, but you also have a particular batch of talents, qualities, ways you grew up, cultures you grew up in, and just proclivities that make you really useful in your own wonderful way in any situation. So you might like sticking numbers in spreadsheets. You might be really good at making things attractive on a screen. You might be really flowy with your words in an email or in in-person interactions or meetings. You're very gracious, whatever it is. This is all creative acts on your part. This is you being uniquely yourself, expressing yourself. So you're profoundly creative, you're uniquely creative. And I believe that you have this with you all the time. So there's no moment at which you're technically not able to fix, solve, or do. Ask any mother who works and has a full-time life if she is not solving and fixing things all the time from this part of her that's actually very brilliant and amazing. Dads as well, everybody gets credit here. But the idea is, I think actually I could take any one of you in the room, sit down with you, and we could have you write the first episode of a new series on Netflix. I'm sure of it. We would just start with, okay, what's the setting? Who are the characters? What's interesting about them? What's bothering them? How do they interact? What's the whole story arc and the goal in this setting? You could start to break it down, and you, as I ask these questions, would fill in the gaps, and it would be fun. And you could create a comedy, you could create a drama, but you would be able to do that. I have no doubt about it. You're profoundly creative, and you can use it anytime. It's always there, unless you need a nap or a snack. Number 4, I believe the world needs to hear this from you. I believe the world needs this part of you. In fact, I think part of the pain of everybody's day and every culture that has denied this part of people is things don't function and don't work as well when people hide their brilliance or shut it down. And not to be negative, but pretty much every one of us from the moment we're born are encouraged to quiet down, put that aside, not say that, be polite. And in the end, sometimes we don't have a level of comfort with just saying what comes to our mind, while working with other people. And in fact, we will hide or diminish or undercut this part of us that is I believe, our greatest superpower, and is the source of that confidence, growing your career with confidence. All right, cool. That's my pep talk intro for all of you. We're going to move straight into improv activity, and I'm going to explain a little bit about life on an improv stage so you have an idea of what I'm getting at. And this will relate absolutely directly to business. So the goal of the intro was, hey, you're brilliant. You're always brilliant. It's always there for you. It's endless. It's unique to you. And sorry to inform you, but you are, and so is everyone around you. So what we're going to do is enhance your own confidence in your brilliance and your leadership, positive peer energy to bring that out in other people, which often causes you to end up in leadership roles. All right. So we talked about in the intro to this talk, I promised to help you speak up, help you collaborate, help you lead, and help you express yourself with confidence. So I hope you're getting a sense that this is what we're working on. All right. So improv is natural. You're all doing it all the time. But on a stage, we have some rules that are basics, if you will, that allow for improv to happen. And when I first learned about improvisational theater, it blew my mind. I loved it. I was raised in a very, very, very conservative home on every possible political, religious, everything. And it didn't feel non-religious, but it was just this sense of, so here's some of the rules, all right? Everything is an offer on an improv stage. Everything is an offer. So you look around you and just acknowledge everything. You don't leave anything out. You don't brush anything aside. So for example, if I'm standing on stage and someone walks in up the stairs, as you often sometimes have to anyways, let's say onto the stage, and they just bite it and fall right onto the stage instead of like gracefully walking on. You do not time out, start over, new scene. Nope. That's an offer. Okay. So they just fell. So my job is to accept the offer. So everything's an offer and we accept all offers. All right. So now I can say, oh my gosh, it's big shoe day. I completely forgot. Look at the size of the shoes you made. Those are amazing. Right. So now it's big shoe day. We're in a competition. I realize I have not made big enough shoes. So I'm going to run and fix that. And there's other people, and the scene will just get more ridiculous from here. He has 6-foot shoes or 4-foot shoes. And so instead of denying or ignoring or starting over, wiping away the trip and fall, we just work it right into the scene. So you may have heard in improv, the way this is often described very quickly is the concept of yes and, all right? Yes and. So you'll see that's on little buttons at improviser nerd conferences and stuff. Yes, and this is considered basically the whole reason improv works is yes and. So yes is acknowledgement. It is not agreement. So a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to agree with everyone because this is stupid. I agree with you that you shouldn't have to agree with everybody. But you know what people really, really like and what makes a leader a great leader? Acknowledgement. Okay. So any kind of ignoring, flicking away, diminishing, like I said, not really paying attention. This happens a lot in meetings. People get ignored. Their whole idea doesn't get acknowledged, just a part of it's convenient for someone else. So it's really powerful to acknowledge. All right. And then and is build. Okay. So acknowledge, build. Build is, oh my gosh, it's big shoe day. Pfft, I totally forgot. You're amazing. So I accept the offer, and then I give myself back. I give back a part of myself. So I hear you, now here's me. I hear you, now here's me. That is the entire TikTok natural movement of improv scenes. It's the whole thing. So you acknowledge and you build. All right. So with that in mind, we're going to play a little game at your table. And I want to do this partly also because I'm trying to get you to more believe that you have this inner part of you, totally brilliant, totally creative, totally capable, totally unique. World needs to hear it, that wants to come out. All right. There's a lot of that needs to happen. And that's why meditation is great. Taking car rides is great. Showers are great. A lot of times we can hear this part of ourselves better. But in this case, the world we live in with all the media and all the devices and just even the newspapers, magazines, all there, so much input, tons of input. We are inundated with ideas and thoughts and stories and photographs, and getting any practice time to do output is actually kind of rare. We don't sit around and write poetry under trees maybe as much as we used to, or gather as a family around a piano and sing, right? So output, I'm trying to get you in output mode with this next activity. All right, it's going to be fun. I promise, don't worry. And it's a great one, this one we're about to do, if you have kids or any just friends you want to play with, especially on like a road trip. It's called Let's Go On an Adventure. Let's Go On an Adventure. That's the name of this activity or game. And how it's going to work is if I would appreciate if whoever is closest to me at your table round, I understand your table round, raise your hand, please, nice and tall. So if you're closest to the screen, everybody agree who that person is at your table. Good. Hi, person. All right. You are going to start the game off by simply saying, and I understand we're in a room, it's going to be noisy, all this stuff. Just try and speak loudly and clearly to your friends without going too wild so you cut everyone else off. Just get it clearly to your group. First person, you don't have to do it yet, but what you're going to do is say, let's go on an adventure. Let's go on an adventure. All right. The person to your right, we're going to just kind of go that way to start, is going to start their phrase after you say that with yes and. Okay. Let's go on an adventure. Next person says yes and they start the adventure. Now, here's my rules on creativity for right now that I want while we're in this state and we're learning. Aim for average. Your first thought is your best thought. Don't think. Whatever comes up is beautiful, okay? Let it out. So, for example, first person says, yes, and we'll go to tea. All right, cool. Person next to them on their right, so just one idea, person next to them, yes, and we'll all wear matching floral sarongs. The next person says, yes, and we'll have frothy drinks with little umbrellas in them that are custom made just for us. Next person says, yes, and we'll visit every island in Tahiti and we'll have a fresh sarong and a fresh drink for every island. Next person, yes, and we will find tropical birds that sing songs to us and we will teach them to sing both Lady Gaga and Pachelbel's Canon in D. I don't know. So you're going to yes and your way around the table and you'll just keep going in a circle and you're going to build this adventure. And the first words out of your mouth after that initial let's go on adventure is always going to be yes and. All right. We only have so much time and I want to be honoring of that. So I'm going to try to give you 4 minutes to do this. I might cut you off a little early, but I will watch the time. And unfortunately, I can't answer your questions, but it should sound like what I just described. Let's go on an adventure. Yes, and yes, and yes, and. If you get to a point where it's just getting real weird, just say, let's go on an adventure and start a new one. It's okay, but you don't have that much time. All right, I'm gonna be quiet. Everyone in your group, 4 minutes of let's go on an adventure. Go. All right, I'm actually stopping this sooner. I know there's folks out there with microphones. If you could maybe get people to wrap up, I'll be quiet for about another 30 seconds. Let's wrap it up and come back and get quiet in the next 15 seconds. Okay, we probably had a quiet laughter. I'm hoping it tends to be a little bit silly what comes out and let's go on an adventure. If I were there with you, if we had more time, one of my favorite things is to hear about people's adventures, where they went, Paris, mountains, beach. If you want at some point today, it's really fun to ask someone else, like, where'd you go on your adventure? So just keep that in mind. If that is something you think of later, it can be really delightful. And they're quite silly a lot of times, or they go really dark, whatever. So if I were there, or even if I was live, we could do some little kind of debriefy time to talk about the adventures. So I'm going to just say some things to you instead that you might resonate with based on the experience you just had. Number one, you had a lot of ideas. People were going around so slow telling their ideas. You had a natural tendency, I bet, to fill in and be like, oh, we should get croissants when we're in Paris. By the time it came back to you, you were already in Spain, so there's no croissants. Isn't it interesting how much you had to share? And if you judged what came up, it makes it harder. If you don't judge it, you just let it out. It's interesting because we'll talk about later the concept of make your partner look good, which is an improv concept that you always just scoop up what's there and you make it shine and you love on it. So by better listening to what was going on in front of you, is kind of to your left, you were more able to contribute in a way that was affirming to everyone around you. So there's a lot of acknowledgement in this game going well and being fun. If everybody's sitting on the beach in Tahiti and somebody says, the surface of Mars is so cold, it's kind of like, wait a second, what do I do with that? As opposed to, and then Martians land on the beach. That's cool. That's totally acknowledging everything that's come to this point. Maybe the Martians will grab a drink. Maybe they'll put us on a spaceship, whatever. All right. So this is a good practice in listening before you speak, honoring other people's time to speak, even though you're full of ideas, and just also honoring, gosh, I have a lot of ideas. Totally cool. All right. So putting it out there. All right. So let's go on an adventure. Fun game. I want to just note one thing. In the amount of time we have, there's some exercises we could do on this. I'm just going to say it again. There is I jokingly call an evil cousin to yes and called yes but. Okay, yes but. So yes but is everywhere. People yes but us, we yes but them. It is a way of pausing. Creative thought is a way of slowing things down. It's a way of taking control of a situation. And the idea is, oh yeah, I hear you, but we don't have staff for that, but we don't have budget for that. We don't have time for that. We tried that. That doesn't work. People don't like it. Whatever it is, it stops the creative process. Yes, but. So, it's insurance policies, it's budgets. It's somewhat useful, but I'm going to put something out here for you and challenge you a little bit. You can always use yes and here is the difference. I managed a number of teams in my career, something I'm very honored I got to do, and I made a commitment to be what I call a yes and manager. You could also be a yes and peer. You could be a yes and wife or mother, all right? So this is the difference. Someone comes to you with an idea, and I will give you an example from my world of marketing. So say I have a new person on the team and they say, Bridget, guess what? I just have the best idea. I think we could take our product, package it in a little more pastels, release it in the spring, and hit it to a teen girl market. Give it to a teen girl market, and I think it would really work. I think they would like it. On my end, I'm thinking, we tried that. It didn't work. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I also know why it didn't work, okay? So a yes, but response, because we're busy, there's a lot going on, I gotta be somewhere else. I could say, I hear you. We tried that, didn't really work. I know you're working on something really important, so just go back to that. Maybe we'll talk about it later, but let it go, okay? This would be a yes and response. I hear you. That's the yes. I hear you, acknowledging you. Great idea. We actually had that idea and we tried it, and here's why it didn't work. We didn't give the designers enough time to come up with a new look and feel for the product. We didn't price it appropriately. We actually priced it weirdly low for what it was, and it didn't feel like a quality item to people. And we were also late in our release because design got behind. And so we didn't actually release it till almost early summer, which backfired for us. But totally cool you thought of it. So why don't you just take 10 minutes right now, real short time, get your ideas out of your head, and we'll talk about it in your next one-on-one. Thanks for telling me that idea. Totally different experience, right? It's like I say sometimes someone's 17th idea is their best, but you got to hear the first 16 to get to number 17. So the yes and response, just to be clear, it gave information. It was informing the person. It was empowering them with information. So I understand why you're excited. Here's what we struggled with. Think about it a little bit and get back to work, please, on your other stuff. And we'll talk about it in your one-on-one. Boom. All right. So thoughts for you to consider. We're going to play around with yes and in one other way. And you're going to do it for yourself. So every one of you at your table in front of you has a little note card, I believe, and a pen. So what I want to do is do one more exercise with yes and. And in all of this, we're trying to get the up and out process going. You're going to yes and yourself. All right. So this is a very useful practice if you have something you would like to do, an idea you'd like to consider, something you would like to have grow. All right. So the way it works is I want you to think of an I want statement or I would like statement. Maybe it's, I'd like to be in better shape. I would like to grow my career with confidence. I would like to lead a team within the next year to 2 years of my career. I would like to gain some new skills to make my career better. Whatever it is, I want. Okay. So if you would, I'll be quiet for about 10-ish seconds. Write I want statement on that card anywhere at the top. And you're going to add a couple sentences, so leave room. Okay, now just to move things forward, sorry if you're still working on that, please continue. And also, again, with my request, don't think your first idea is a great idea, aim for average, just let it out. All right, so I'll take the example of I want to get into better shape. Or actually, let's stick to a job one. I want to be a manager at my career. I want to manage a team. All right, so I want to manage a team. Yes, and. So next thing you write, every sentence from there on out starts with yes, and. Yes, and I'm going to take a course on being a great manager. Yes, and I'm going to get some books at the library and start reading at least one book a month on how to be a great manager. Yes, and I'm going to have lunches and coffees with people. When I talk to them about where I want to go, I'm going to tell them not only that I want to be a manager, but why I want to be a manager, why I care, why I think that I'd be a great one. Yes, and. Yes, and I'm going to start dressing like someone who manages a team, at least in my mind. Yes, I'm going to look for opportunities. Yes. See what it's doing? It's drawing out of you ideas that are yours, unique to you, and hopefully exciting, but ones that kind of bubble up and pop up. That's the output. Really valuable stuff coming out of you. So I'll be quiet here for about a minute, just 2, maybe 3 sentences if you would. Yes, and yourself. After that phrase, go ahead. All right, if you only have one done, that's okay. If you can finish up whatever you're writing. I was an English major, so I tend to write things kind of fast. So I'm sorry if you feel rushed. I'm also trying to honor the conference today and how much time I was given to be with all of you. So if you want, spend some time on that later. Yes, and practices like this one where you're writing, or just doing this practice, you can do it with a spouse. You're trying to, we got to get our kids to behave better. Yes, and we could start talking to them about bedtime 2 hours early. I mean, you folks know all this stuff. Or we want to build a house. Yes, and we're gonna build them with a view. It's a great way to hear what they're thinking. You're like, oh yeah, view would be nice. Yes, and it's going to be sage green because that's what you have. Yes, and we'll have the kind of kitchen that opens out onto a porch with a deck where we can sit outside and eat. Yes, and. Okay, there's a propulsion to yes, and. There's a forward energy. You're not taking the time to but. Okay, you're just going forward, and it can be really useful to get your ideas out. It's also a way of interacting with another person. And I gave a game to your team for that purpose today, a game called Portkey, where you listen to what is said and then you build, you acknowledge and you build, and you tell a story of your own. So that game Portkey will be really fun when you all play it. As hopefully it'll get explained clearly and you can follow it. It's a lovely game. All right, so I'm right near the end of my time, so I want to be really honoring of that. And I want to go back over why this talk was called Growing Your Career with Confidence. Kind of need to round it down and bring it back. We didn't get to debrief in person, so I'm just going to state a few things for you, okay? One of my goals at my time with you was to have you just get the slightest taste, the beginning flavors of how much you have to share and give, how profoundly, endlessly, beautifully big this part of you is that is creative, and that is actually the fuel for a lot of your success in life, a lot of your adaptability, flexibility, leadership of others. It comes from you being yourself, expressing yourself, and being someone who can acknowledge and build with other people. So people like to be acknowledged. We talked about that. So if you can really listen to someone and take in what they say and then build on it from yourself, you will find the relationships you're in are richer and stronger. Okay. So as you build your career by either helping and working with others or sitting down to write your resume, yes, and yourself on that resume. Oh yeah, and I did that too. Oh, and I did that too. Yeah. However it comes to you, but it's acknowledge and build for yourself and for others. And this is the kind of confidence that in a job interview, in a conversation, a lunch with a peer about a career opportunity, you'll be a person who doesn't just da 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 speak for themselves or is too quiet and doesn't share. You listen and then you share while honoring what you just heard. That is a confident frame of mind. Yes, and okay. So enjoy your day. Let this process. There's lots of books out there on this topic and podcasts and all kind of stuff. I have stuff on my YouTube channel, Bridget Quigg, and I also want to invite you to join, link with me on LinkedIn if you'd like. Tell me how this went for you. I have a website, bridgetquigg.com. You can write me an email there. And just honored and excited for all of you. Enjoy the day and just trust this part of you, this brilliance, this creative genius is with you all the time and can take you anywhere you want to go. Take care. Bye.